Our next speaker will be Dr. Aaron Boster, who Dr. Rainey Burishad had mentioned. We are very honored and pleased to have him as our third physician speaking today. Dr. Boster is a board-certified neurologist who specializes in MS care and other CNS inflammatory disorders. He decided to become an MS doctor at the young age of 12 when he had the situation of watching his Uncle Mark suffer from the disease in an era before treatment was available. Dr. Boster grew up in Columbus, Ohio, attended Oberlin College for undergraduate work, and then went to his medical degree at the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine. He then completed an internship and residency in neurology at University of Michigan, hence his ties to Michigan, and then following that, a 2-year fellowship in clinical neuroimmunology at Wayne State University with Dr. Kahn and Dr. Lissack. Since then, he has been intimately involved in the care of patients impacted by MS. He has been a principal investigator in numerous clinical trials, trained multiple MS doctors and nurse practitioners. He has published extensively in medical journals. He is known both nationally and internationally. He lectures to both patients and providers worldwide with a mission to educate, energize, and empower people impacted by MS. He lives in Columbus, Ohio with his wife, Chrissy, his son, Maxwell, and his daughter, Betty May. We are honored and pleased to have you here, Dr. Boster, and the exciting title of this topic is How to Make MS Boring. So thank you for your presence today. Thanks.
Howdy. Thank you so much for having me. Can everyone hear me okay? It's always crazy talking into a computer and hoping that the world can receive you. I really think that post-COVID, we'll probably start face-to-face conversations saying, can you hear and see me okay? My name's Aaron Boster, and thank you for learning about MS with me today. As mentioned, I decided to become an MS doctor when I was 12, not because my Uncle Mark had MS. He had had MS since my earliest memory. But I remember coming into the kitchen at my grandmother's home. My mother and my grandmother were sitting there holding hands. Their heads were bowed and they were crying. Why was my mom crying? Because she couldn't get a hold of my uncle's doctor. He was having a problem and she was scared and alone. And this predates therapies. It predates the interwebs. It predates the involvement of organizations like this one. And I told my mother at age 12 that I would learn to do it better, that I would learn to do a better job of caring for people impacted by MS. So I was this weirdo in high school that said, I'm going to be a multiple sclerosis doctor. I've had a very, very directed course. And it's truly become my mission to help people impacted by MS live their very best lives despite having this condition. Now, I am asked very frequently, hey, Dr. B, when will there be a cure? When are we going to cure this disease? Humbly, I share with you that I don't think that in my lifetime we will find a cure for multiple sclerosis. But let's be very honest with each other. In medicine, we don't cure things. We don't cure diabetes, we treat it. We don't cure things, we can treat them. And in fact, diabetes is a great example. Diabetes, which is another autoimmune disease, was a death sentence just 3 generations ago. People who had diabetes 20 years into the disease would go into renal failure and they would die. Nowadays, you don't even know that your girlfriend has diabetes unless you happen to order chocolate cake after lunch and she pulls out her little insulin pen and you say, honey, what are you doing? She says, oh, I'm taking my insulin. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that it's easy to have diabetes, but when you do it right, when you are fastidious, when you are an involved member of your care team, you can make having diabetes very boring. And I am thrilled to share with you a not secret. In 2020, today, we can make MS boring. In fact, I'm going to spend the next half an hour of our lives talking to you about how we can make MS boring in the now. There's 3 ways to make MS boring, and let's walk through all 3 of them. The first way that we make MS boring is we identify and treat MS attacks. An attack, a flare, an exacerbation, a relapse, it's all the same thing. It's when something bad happens to you, you can't see, God forbid, or your hand is clumsy, or your foot feels like it's in ice. And after a day or 2, it won't go away and you can't blow it off and you have to fess up to your wife, honey, I can't see. We can treat attacks. And if you have a new neurological symptom, I want you to holler at your doctor. So if you have a new neurological symptom lasting longer than a day, I implore you to holler at your provider helping you with your MS care. Now, on the other end of the phone, they should demand to see you, right? We don't do fake medicine where we call in a prescription of steroids over the phone without looking into what's going on. No, we need to see you. Now, in the modern COVID era, that may be on telemedicine, so be it. But we need to take a careful history. We need to see what we can on exam, and we need to check a urinalysis to make sure that you don't have an occult urinary tract infection. If you have a UTI, we're going to give you antibiotics and make it better. If you're not having an infection, we're going to give you big dog steroids and quell that inflammation and hasten the recovery. I also, as a pro tip, will suggest to you that 6 weeks after your attack, you need to be seen in follow-up. That's right, you need to come back into clinic, or in the modern COVID era, you need to jump back on telemedicine. And we need to make sure of two things. Number one, that you've gotten better. Because if you haven't gotten better yet, we're not done yet. And there is more that we can do to help you in your road to recovery, regaining that neurological function. Number two, we have to take a moment to consider what disease-modifying therapy you were just on. Because if you're taking a birth control and you get knocked up, it didn't work. And if you're taking a medicine to prevent attacks and you had one, it didn't work. And we need to make sure that we call that out and we discuss, do we stay on this medicine or do we need to upgrade? The first way that we make MS boring is we identify attacks or pseudo attacks and we crush them. We get you back into play. I kind of consider my job as an MS neurologist like being a kid's hockey coach, and you are the star on the ice. And you go out there and you spend some minutes and you come back off and I dust you off and I give you some hot chocolate and I throw you back out on the ice because I don't want MS to make decisions for you. I want you to make decisions for you, and I don't want an attack to get in your way. So the first way that we make MS boring is we treat MS attacks. Did you know that if you pour Guinness Stout into a coffee mug, it looks like you're drinking coffee? Now, the second way that we make MS boring is we treat symptoms. Symptoms are things that suck. Symptoms are things that you don't like. And in the setting of multiple sclerosis, you can have an attack where you don't fully recover. And let me use an example of an attack where your left leg feels like it's on fire. It burns. And we give you steroids and it gets 90% better. And you are left with a residual symptom. You're left with a chronic symptom where your leg, particularly when you're overtired or when you're really hot, starts to feel like it's burning again. And it can make it really uncomfortable to sit for a long time or to walk. You have accrued a chronic symptom. Now, if I slow your MS down, if I make your MS not progress and you're miserable in the process, I have not done my best job. And I'm going to tell you a not secret. I don't do a bad job. In order for me to go home and look at my children and say, today, your dad did a good job, I have to do two things. I have to slow your disease down, and I have to elevate your quality of life. I have to help you be the most awesome version of you possible despite having MS. And the number one way that I do that is by treating chronic symptoms. In fact, as I work with patients over years and now decades, we spend increasingly more time optimizing them and treating chronic symptoms. And when I think about symptoms, I really think about the invisible nature of multiple sclerosis. So much of MS pathology is invisible. And honey, you look so good. Oh, you don't look sick. Well, you don't look ill-informed, but you are. And so much of what goes on in multiple sclerosis is invisible. The leading cause of loss of work in MS is not because you can't walk. It's because you can't think. It's because of cognitive fatigue and pathologic fatigue where you fall asleep at your desk. And that brings me to my first constellation of invisible symptoms, the up there's. The up there's are a triad of 3 symptoms that are extremely common in MS. The most common symptom in all of multiple sclerosis is fatigue. And I watch my patient's face melt when they say in the clinic room, I'm tired, and the spouse says, yeah, me too. Because unfortunately, the spouse is not picking up what they're putting down. The best way that I have been able to explain fatigue from an MS standpoint is as follows. On Monday, I want you to go to work and I want you to work your butt off. And then I want you to come home and have dinner with your family. And then I want you to watch TV. And then when everyone goes to bed, I don't want you to go to sleep. I want you to jump onto my YouTube channel and I want you to watch YouTube videos all night long. And in the morning, shower and go to work. Tuesday morning, go to work and work your butt off. Now, Tuesday night, I want you to come home and I want you to have dinner with your family. And then afterwards, I want you to watch some TV. And on Tuesday night, when everyone else goes to sleep, you're not going to go to sleep. You got to finish watching all my YouTube videos. Now, Wednesday morning, we're going to take the day off work, and you and I are going to go for a 10-mile walk. And while we're walking and talking, we're going to discuss what it feels like to have MS fatigue. Now, if you are impacted by MS and you're picking up what I'm putting down, tell me in the chat. If that is an appropriate description to help a loved one understand what it's like to have fatigue, give me a thumbs up or something in the chat so that I know that you're on my page. Now, another chronic symptom of the up there's, if you will, is cog fog. Cog fog is super freaking frustrating, where as you get tired, as the day progresses, as you get overheated, you have increasing difficulties in processing. Now, this is not an Alzheimer's dementia where you don't know the names of your loved ones or you can't find your way home. This is, I can't move fast enough. I used to not need lists and now I can't find the list that I made. This is the leading cause of loss of work of MS. And the third of the triad of the up there's has to deal with mood. People impacted by MS are 2 times as likely to experience clinical depression. They are 2 times as likely to experience anxiety or anxiety disorders compared to the general population. And unfortunately, the data is very clear. Untreated depression or undertreated depression drives MS pathology faster. Now, maybe you didn't hear what I just said, and I'm going to repeat it. Undertreated depression makes your MS neurologically get worse faster, and we can treat depression. And so the up there's, the honey, you look so good that we have to address the invisible nature of fatigue, cognitive fog, and also dealing with mood are terribly important. And I want to make that point to you. So let's talk about how we're going to knock out one of those symptoms. The first person that writes in, whether it be fatigue, cog fog, or depression, that's what I'll talk about. So someone write down fatigue, cog fog. Okay, they wrote cog fog. So we're going to talk about cog fog. And in the spirit of a holistic approach to medicine, I'm not going to mention any drugs at all. I'm not going to talk about drugs to treat cog fog, and there are excellent drugs. But instead, I'm going to come up with, let's do 10 different ways that we can treat cog fog. Why did I pick 10? I have 10 fingers. So as long as I come up with one answer for each finger, then I'm in there like swimwear. So the first thing that we're going to do to treat cog fog is we're going to make sure that you're getting a solid 8 hours of sleep every night. Now, check yourself before you wreck yourself. If you're not getting an 8-hour sleep, you are not recharging your battery. You're not starting the day off the best that you could. You're robbing yourself of replenishing your energy stores, and you're starting your day that far behind. And so we need to make sure, number one, that you're getting the adequate amount of sleep. Many of us finish our day, we get the kids to bed, and it's 9 or 10 o'clock before the house is finally calm. And many of us, myself included, we demand some adult time. And what do? We sit in front of the boob tube and we passively watch television for a couple of hours. Well, here's my challenge to you. Go to bed an hour early and see what it does for your cognition in the morning. Number 2 of 10 things that we're going to list today is making sure that the quality of your sleep is good. And this is a real big one in MS. If you are a snorer and you periodically wake your wife up because you're snoring and you're stopping breathing, if you wake up not feeling refreshed, if you wake up with a headache, I am concerned that you have obstructive sleep apnea. And we have to address that or we will never, ever successfully manage your cog fog, for Rizzle. Now, if you have restless leg syndrome and you're laying in bed and you have a compulsion which builds up and then you have to shake your legs for a second, that's going to keep you up and that's going to interfere with the quality of your sleep. If you have an overactive bladder from MS and you have to get up not 1, not 2, not 3, 4, 5, 6 times a night, I have patients that wake every hour to go pee-pee, you are not getting restorative sleep. And if you have spasticity with spasms and cramps and Charlie horses that wake you from a dead sleep, rocking in pain, you're not doing everything that we could do to make sure that you're getting proper sleep. So number 2 is to make sure that the quality of your sleep is on point. Number 3 is to reduce polypharmacy. So doctors, particularly MDs, we are very, very good at giving you medicines, but we're not very good at taking them away. The average American with MS takes 7 medicines a day, which is a lot. And I challenge you to talk to your MS provider and say, hey, doc, is there anything that we can get rid of? Is there anything that we can cut in half? Do I really still need to be on this pill? Do I really still need to be on that pill? And I want you to look and see if there's anything that you can reduce. I challenge you that when your doctor offers to add a medicine, say, okay, fine, but which one are you going to take away? Because polypharmacy can contribute to cognitive fatigue. And just to flush that out a little bit, in specific, many of the bladder medicines that we use can interfere with thinking and memory, particularly the gotta go right now drugs, the anticholinergic drugs. Many of the medicines that we use for neuropathic pain, the medicines that were originally invented for seizures and now we use them to treat neuropathic pain, they can interfere with cognition. Even medicines for spasticity, which are terribly helpful in stopping cramps and spasms, can interfere with cognition. And so number 3 is to address polypharmacy. Number 4 is to exercise as part of your lifestyle. Now, there is very clear evidence in life that people that exercise maintain cognition when they enter into their 8th decade. But in MS, it's even more profound. And we can show data that people impacted by MS that exercise as part of their lifestyle maintain thinking and memory, and they slow brain volume loss. Now, maybe you didn't hear me. If you exercise, you preserve the reserve. That's a really, really big deal. And I think that was number 4. If it's not, I'm not trying to cheat. I just can't keep in mind all the different numbers. Number 5 is to make sure that you're eating real food. What is real food? Real food has ingredients like apple, chicken, broccoli. That's real food. I do not want you to eat fast food, fried food, processed food, sugar-laden food. And if you're looking at the ingredients on the back of a package and it has words you can't pronounce, that's not food, that's a chemical. And anecdotally, I can tell you that when you ascribe to a whole food, real food diet, energy improves, mood improves, and cognition improves. And if you don't believe me, I double dog dare you to try it and see what happens. Give it a month eating real food, not fake food, and see what happens. It is colossal. That is really good. Now, we've got 5 more fingers on this hand. So let's rock and roll with 5 more things that we can do to improve cognition. Here is a pro tip. Take a nap. If your lifestyle allows you 15 minutes to recharge your battery in the middle of the day, that can be life-changing. If you work a 9 to 5, but you have an hour for lunch, go to your car and sleep for half an hour and watch what happens. It is absolutely amazing how you can recharge your battery and think more clearly if you do the following. Take a nap. I'm being very, very serious. I want you to try it out. A nap is a powerful, powerful tool. Number next, I want you to get a pet. You're thinking, has Boster lost it? He wants me to get a pet because it'll help with cognition, but it actually will. Having a pet creates structure in your life. Because if you don't have structure in your life, your dog's going to poop in your house. If you don't have structure in your life, your dog's going to freak out because they're really hungry and they need to eat. And by having a dog, it's going to help you make sure that you wake up at a certain time because the dog's going to bark because they need to go out and go potty. It's going to make sure that you go outside, breathe some fresh air, go for a walk because you got to walk the dog. It's going to force you to be responsible because you have to purchase food or you have to make food to give to the dog. It actually helps with thinking and memory. It can also help with mood. And let's talk about that one real quick. That'll be number 6. There's a concept called pseudo-dementia. Pseudo is a Greek word which means similar to but ain't. That's pseudo. Now, dementia, if we split that word apart, mentia means thinking. Duh means I don't do it very well. So dementia means I don't think as clearly as I used to. In pseudo-dementia, it appears that you're having cognitive impairment, but you're not. You're depressed and it's undertreated. And if you can adequately treat depression, you can improve cognition. I do this on the daily in my clinic. Someone comes to me and they're not saying, I'm really, really sad. No, they're saying, I can't think clearly and I'm at risk of losing my job. And we put them on a medicine to treat depression, and guess what happens? It's life-changing. Oh gosh, guys, let's just say it's number 7. Number 7 is going to be drinking water. Many red-blooded Americans spend a tremendous amount of time dehydrated. And I have found over the years that my patients that take the MS Water Challenge fare better. They have more energy and therefore they think more clearly, for real. And so how much water should you have? Well, in my opinion, I want you to have 1 glass of water with breakfast, 1 glass of water with lunch, and 1 glass of water with dinner. I don't think that's asking too much. Then I want you to have a glass of water between breakfast and lunch, and a glass of water between lunch and dinner. All right. If you can do that, what you will find is that you're adequately hydrated. All right. Number 8 is to put a hard stop on fluids after the dinner hour. I want you to drink 2/3 of all the fluid you're going to drink in the first half of your day. And then I want you to put a hard stop after dinner. Now, don't walk around the house going, don't make yourself miserable. And if you have to take some medicine, take a sip of water. But what I don't want you to do is to chug water and drink fluids up until bedtime. Some people I know take a bottle of water to the bed. Well, guys, you make urine for 6 hours after you drink. And so if you go to bed at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m., all night long you're making urine, of course you're going to have to get up and run to the bathroom. All right. Now, why is that important? If you don't get good sleep, then you're not going to be able to think clearly in the morning. The last pro tip is to do your best work in the morning. I want you to be cognizant of the fact that as the day goes forward, you can have increasing difficulties with energy levels and increasing difficulties with fatigue. So if you're going to have a really important meeting, schedule it in the morning. If you have to process something on the computer that's really challenging, do it in the morning. There are 10 pro tips on how you can improve an invisible symptom in MS. Remember, we're talking about how to make MS boring. And one of the ways that we can make MS boring is treating an attack. A second way that we can make MS boring is by treating chronic symptoms. And I oftentimes think about the invisible symptoms, the up there's and the down there's. And today we focused our attention on the up there's. Now, the third way that we make MS boring is we slow down the disease. And so this is a really big one. I saved it for last. I have a saying that I want you to be 4 for 4 in your fight against MS. I want you to be 4 for 4 in your fight against MS. Now, you're at home and I'm over here, but on the count of 3, I want you to say out loud so everyone in your house can hear 4 for 4. All right? 1, 2, 3. 4 for 4 in your fight against MS. What does it mean to be 4 for 4? It means that there are 4 things that I'm familiar with that literally slow down the natural history of MS. And I want you to do all of them. The first one that I want you to do, number 1, is to exercise as part of your lifestyle. I told you a few minutes ago that exercise improves cognition in MS, which it does. But I also want you to know that people impacted by MS who exercise as part of their lifestyle become less neurologically disabled as they grow older. Allow me to repeat. If you exercise, you accrue less neurological disability compared to someone with MS that doesn't. That is a really, really big deal. And a commitment to exercise is critically important. To me, it's as important as taking a medicine. And you may be saying, well, that's lovely, Aaron. You know, when I was in high school, I used to run track or swim. Well, now I'm in a wheelchair. So how exactly do you expect me to do that? Well, there's a lot of ways. Today's program is being sponsored by an amazing organization. Let's give a round of applause to Yoga Moves MS. These guys are awesome, and they will help you do yoga despite having a neurological disability. You can jump on YouTube and find innumerable opportunities to exercise in your living room for free. A pro tip, the best way to do it, in my opinion, is in the pool. Throw on a life jacket, jump in the water, and try to get out, or take a walk in the water. In the water, you weigh less, and so your weak leg is less weak. It's carrying less weight. In the water, if you fall to the left, it pushes back to the right. In the water, if you get overheated, convection pulls the heat off your body. In the water, spasticity is markedly reduced. And so you can do things in the water that you can't do elsewhere. I'm going to give you a very, very personal example. I had the honor and the privilege to care for my high school algebra teacher. I met him when I first started as a professor many, many years ago. And he had primary progressive MS in an era where there was no treatment. Now, this was a really tall guy. He was like 6'8". He's a really, really tall man. And he was having increasing trouble, difficulty walking. So much so that he was using his walker less and less and less. And he was using his wheelchair more and more and more. And he didn't like that. His wife didn't like that. I didn't like that. Dogs didn't like that. And so we committed to a program of exercise. This guy went to the YMCA 3 to 4 times a week. He put on a life jacket. He put his walker in the water, and he literally walked laps with a life jacket on in the pool. Now, after 3 months of doing this, mind you, no medicines, he came to clinic, and the MA came and got me and said, Dr. B, he won't do his time 25 for walk until you come out in the hallway. So I came out in the hallway, and he stood there with this walker, and he said, young man, are you ready? And I said, yes. And he picked up the damn walker, and he walked 25 feet. He did that by sheer force of will and exercise, and you can too. And the first way that we can make MS slower in being 4 for 4 is to exercise as part of your lifestyle. This is really good. Now, number 2 is to supplement vitamin D. Vitamin D is a really weird molecule. It acts as a hormone, it acts as a neurotransmitter, and the data is compelling to me that people who have a low level of vitamin D are at increased risk to develop MS. And if you have MS already and you have a low level of vitamin D, that correlates with driving this disease much faster. Now, the data is clear that if we can drive your vitamin D 25 hydroxy above 50, but below 100, so I want it between 50 and 100, that correlates with good outcomes, less attacks, less disability progression, less MRI lesions. And so simply by supplementing vitamin D, we can slow down your disease. Now, if you have tuned in from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and you are a bronzed god, you might be getting enough vitamin D from the sun. But if you're tuning in from Northern Michigan and you're a pasty white kid, you might need to supplement your vitamin D. Now, how do you do that? You get a blood test and you check out whether or not your vitamin D is the right level. And if not, we supplement. And we do that all day, our day here in sunny Columbus, Ohio. And so the second way that we can slow down your disease is simply by supplementing vitamin D3. Now, the third way that we make MS boring is we don't smoke things. I don't want you to take a carbon-based material, light it on fire, and then suck in the smoke. I'm talking about tobacco. I'm talking about ganja. I don't want you to smoke things. Smoking increases the risk to develop MS. Actually, it doubles the risk to develop MS, which is insane. But if you have MS, it speeds up your disease almost by 50%. Allow me to repeat. Smoking cigarettes speeds up your disease by 50%. Now think about this for a second. The early MS drugs that came out in the 90s could slow MS in some ways by about 30%. You can speed up MS by smoking cigarettes by 50%. And here's the kicker. If you quit smoking, you slow it back down. So the effect size of smoking or not smoking is actually bigger than those ancient drugs that we used to use to slow down the disease. That is a really big deal. So when I talk about being 4 for 4 in your fight against MS, I'm talking about exercising as part of your lifestyle. I'm talking about taking vitamin D supplementation to drive your level above 50, and I'm talking about not smoking stuff. Now, the fourth way to slow down MS, as we're 4 for 4, is to take an MS disease-modifying therapy and make sure that it's working. Now, there are 22 FDA-approved therapies, and we just had an awesome rockstar lecture from a really, really great neurologist who shared with us a bunch of the latest and greatest. And it is not my plan here to tell you the faves and the goods and the bads, not at all. Here's my point. We want to make sure that your drug's working. And the drug that's right for you is the one that allows you to achieve NETA 4. What is NETA 4? NETA stands for no evidence of disease activity, or if you're Spanish speaking, NADA, no apparent disease activity. And during the time period that we're looking at, we have a goal. We have a goal or a target of no attacks, no new spots on MRI, no change on the neuroexam, and normal rates of brain volume loss. That is our target. That's what we're shooting for. Now, the likelihood that we achieve that with the disease-modifying therapy your whole life is not very high. And so at first blush, you might say, well, Boster, that's kind of a stupid goal if you can't achieve it all the time. And I would say, no, that's not right. We have to think about it a little bit differently. And let me give you an example. So in non-COVID times, in March, apparently there's this really big college basketball tournament where all of these basketball teams have this giant tournament, and then there's a big winner. And at the beginning of the tournament, 64 different coaches tell 64 teams of young men, boys, because that's the way coaches talk, boys, this is our year. We're going to win national championships. And you might say, well, then 63 coaches are darn liars because only one team gets to win, but that's not true. What the coach is actually telling his team is that they will conduct themselves like champions. They will conduct themselves like champions. They will eat like champions. They will sleep like champions. They will attend class like champions. They will practice together like champions. And if they come in second in the nation, they still get a prize. They have set a target. Now, if they start the season and they lose the first 2 games of the season, the coach doesn't disband the team and quit his job and sit at home and listen to The Cure and cry. No. He assesses what's going on, he makes some changes, and then they go back out and they play again. And that is exactly what we do with Netta 4. The reason I like this concept is if you're taking a drug, whatever disease-modifying therapy that is, and you have an attack, we know that's not okay. If you have new spots on your MRI, we know that's not okay. If you're having a failure of the litmus test of life, what is the litmus test of life? That's where you're backing away from life because of MS. Now I have to stop. Julie just said that's an interesting photograph or picture. And I want to thank you, Julie. My grandfather, Irv Levy, was the care partner of my uncle with MS until his dying day. And he painted that. It's an honor that I get to have it in my house. It's a painting that I've looked at my entire life. And I'm really, really excited to share it with you right now. So thank you for asking that, Julie. But I was talking about taking a disease-modifying therapy and make sure that it's working. And the reason that I love having Netta as our guiding light is we can assess. Every neurologist on earth can tell you attack versus no attack. They can tell you whether you are having disability on your exam. They can tell you whether you have new spots. And that is how we're going to sort out whether we're winning or not. And if you are having breakthrough disease, that's not okay. So as we think about life in 2020, and we get very, very excited about future neuroprotective agents, and we get very, very excited about remyelinating agents, I also want us to realize that in the now, you have the power, the ability to make MS boring right now. How do we make MS boring? We treat attacks aggressively. We treat chronic symptoms aggressively. And we make sure that we are 4 for 4 in our fight against MS. My name's Aaron Boster, and I want to thank Yoga Moves MS for this opportunity to educate you. And as always, I want to thank you for learning about MS with me.